Also ein herzliches Willkommen in dieser schmelzenden Umgebung an alle, die heute den Weg zu uns gefunden haben und an der Eröffnung und dem Künstlergespräch mit Diana und Denim heute teilnehmen. Wir sind heute tatsächlich hier, um in diese Klanglandschaft der Melting Gallery einzutauchen, in ein künstlerisches Statement, was die Rolle der Kunst, die Rolle der Museen, die Rolle der Kunstinstitutionen generell in diesen Zeiten, in denen wir leben, hinterfragt und auch sehr radikal hinterfragt und zeitgleich in einen sehr engen Dialog tritt mit der Brandenburg-Ausstellung, die Sie unten im Erdgeschoss auch heute bis 20 Uhr noch sehen können. Denn das Programm von diesem Haus steht und fällt und basiert auf der Brandenburger Landesgeschichte, auf der Überblicksausstellung, die hier im April letzten Jahres eröffnet hat und mit der wir in den letzten Jahren sehr intensiv arbeiten werden. Und das ist jetzt das erste Mal, wo wir uns dafür entschieden haben, über einen längeren Zeitraum an einem Thema zu arbeiten, die direkt aus der landesgeschichtlichen Ausstellung hervorkommt. Und das ist das Klimathema, denn wie Sie vielleicht auch schon gesehen haben, fängt die Ausstellung mit Wolkenbildern aus dem Potsdamer Meteorologischen Zentrum an. Es geht direkt in die Klimaforschung, wenn Sie die Landesgeschichte von Brandenburg betreten. Und es geht dann auch, wenn es um die Identität von Brandenburg geht, in ironischer Weise auch in dieser Streusandbüchsen Diskussion in der Ausstellung gleich weiter. Und das alles ist natürlich sehr stark geprägt von klimatischen Ereignissen, nicht nur jetzt seit der Industrialisierung, sondern auch schon deutlich davor. Und die Landschaft, die auch durch diese klimatischen Ereignisse in Brandenburg sehr speziell geprägt ist, mit den Wäldern, die aus einer Eichen-Mischwald-Formation sich jetzt seit einigen Jahrhunderten in die Fichtenformation umgestellt haben und die auch jetzt teilweise auch dafür verantwortlich sind, dass diese verheerenden Waldbrände, die wir letztes Jahr und auch vorletztes Jahr schon mitverfolgt haben, dass das alles sehr stark auch den Alltag von Brandenburgerinnen prägt, aber tatsächlich auch intensiv in der Kulturgeschichte verankert ist. Wir verstehen diese Installation auch als ein Auftakt, ein gewisses Umdenken, was wir für nötig halten. Wir möchten diesen Neuanfang im Haus damit beginnen, dass wir die Kultur- und Naturgeschichte in Brandenburg zusammen mit globalen Prozessen denken und auch in einem anderen Ausstellungsformat ohne Objekte, ohne Transporte, tatsächlich im Sinne des Green Curatings neu aufstellen möchten. Und deshalb beginnen wir jetzt auch mit ich werde die Künstler kurz vorstellen und dann gehen wir gleich in die Diskussion und dann würde ich jetzt auch gerne ins Englische wechseln. Ich habe natürlich sehr viel vorbereitet, was ich jetzt ganz anders erzählt habe, aber aber das macht nichts. So, Diana graduated from the Department of Photography in the Faculty of Multimedia Communication at the University of Art in Poznan and gained her PhD at the Interdisciplinary PhD Studies at the same university. Currently, she works at the Academy of Fine Art in Warsaw, and she has been working for several years on her Center for the Living Things, an ongoing research project on ways of living with and of post-industrial ruins in Poland. Diana explores relationships between humans and other species. Her projects are critical responses to the processes of overproduction, unlimited growth, and our approach to the environment. She uses photography, living matter, and found objects, creating work that is interdisciplinary and often appears at the interface of art and science. Denim is a Basel-based sound artist and sound engineer dedicated to media art and immersive environments, as you could experience. Since 2015, he's freelancing as a media artist, sound engineer, and a transmedia expert. His work oscillates between sound design, sound engineering, recording, multimedia installations, and immersive compositions, as well as performance. He has been commissioned for sound design by the Theaterhaus Stuttgart and the Luzerner Theater, and has been engaged in audio design works at the National Museum of Qatar in Doha and at the Heritage Center in Cape Town, South Africa. So, very warm welcome. And my first question goes to you both. And it refers to the origins of this piece and how you find yourself in collaboration, and what the reason was for your decision to eliminate images and only work with sounds in this matter.
Yeah, Diana came to Basel 2019 for art residency, the Culturescapes Festival, and yeah, that's how we met. Yeah, maybe you can tell first why you came to Basel. Huh?
Yeah, maybe yes. So yeah, so we met in 2019. And I came for artistic residency in Atelier Mondial in Basel. It was a part of Culturescapes Festival. I had an exhibition as a part of Culturescapes Festival that year, and they also invited me for the artistic residency. And during this residency, I decided to make a research around glaciers in Alps, because I never had opportunity before to see a glacier, so it was really great opportunity to do it. Then I went to Alps, started this research, then I made a lot of pictures, videos, and then I started to make audio records, because I was so surprised when I heard first time the sound of melting glacier. It was next to Glacier du Rhône glacier, and the sound, because in this glacier is a cave inside, so you can come inside the glacier, and if you are inside the glacier, you are surrounded by many sounds of drops, like it sounds like rain, or maybe like music for meditation. It's like bloop, 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 bloop around. And I was so surprised that the sound of the really huge environmental tragedy, the disaster, is so subtle, so even silent. And this contrast was very impressive for me. Like, I even started to cry that time when I was first time inside this glacier. And then I saw that this glacier is covered by white textiles. You can see it on that video. And it was so surprised for me that people decided to cover glacier by white plastic textiles to protect it from melting. And of course it doesn't work. And in my mind was like the idea that it's very similar, it looks like artistic installation somehow, similar to Christo installation, for example. And this contrast was also very impressive, like shock for me, like the contrast in between this big art production, like Christo installations, for example, and these textiles on glacier. And so the idea of this installation came from these two reflections about the sound of glacier and from this reflection about an art production. And then I came back to Basel, and fortunately I met Denim, because I found it will be so great to make this symphony of glaciers, like, let's say, okay, I call it symphony, but I don't know if it's a good name, but for me it's something like this. And then I met Denim, and Denim is the best one to do such a very beautiful, immersive sound. So I was so lucky that I meet you. And yeah, and maybe you can continue what was next.
Yes, I was also lucky to meet you. 2019 was an exciting year, yeah. And yeah, like Diana said, she came to me with these recordings, and yeah, these recordings are very diverse. The soundscape of a glacier is very interesting, and can be from small rhythmic drops, which create rhythmic patterns, to really strong pads, which fill up the space. So it's a very good material for a soundscape composition. And yes, and then we started listening to the recordings and talking about it, what we like, what sounds we want to point out, and then I started doing some magic with audio post-production and taking out the best parts and creating a composition which is not only just a recording, which shows how it really sounds in a glacier, but takes all this sound material and uses it as like instruments for a whole composition. So you have really low bass sounds, you have really high sounds, you have short sounds, you have pads, like I said, and so I try to focus on the sound quality and disconnect it also a little bit from its context, but not completely. And so there is this balance between realistic soundscapes of the glacier, which you can immerse and feel like you are in this alien environment, but also have a really entertaining and strong dramaturgy in the soundscape composition.
So Diana mentioned already that it is a very strong emotional effect that is feelable or traceable if you encounter the glaciers, but also I think here through the sound and through this multisensory environment there is a very strong emotional reaction expected by the audience, I guess. I know that this piece was presented in Singapore and Rome and in Poland, and I am very curious how it is going to be received here in Potsdam, and I was wondering whether you could say a few words how the reaction of the audience was in these different countries on this piece.
Yeah, maybe Diana, because you were almost on every place.
Almost, because in Singapore it was during pandemic, so unfortunately it wasn't possible to go there, but we saved carbon print. Yeah, because we didn't fly intercontinental, so maybe it's better. Yeah. So this is the first time when we had opportunity to show it as the first plan was. Like the idea was to show it always in completely empty gallery space, because the title Melting Gallery is about both the climate catastrophe, melting glaciers, but also this is a question about future of art. So the idea was to make this work as a statement and a question. What is next with white cubes? I mean white cubes in both, I think, meanings, like white cubes of ice from glaciers, but also white cube as a gallery space. Where is the place for art in this context of global catastrophe? So I think here it's really good space, and also this situation that we left walls that normally you use for exhibit things on it, and now they are empty. So this is very symbolic. So it was shown like this in few situations. One in Rome, but in Rome it was bigger show, like it was like, let's say, my monography or something like this. So there was few rooms with different works, and the last room was empty, and it was dedicated for this sound installation. So it was different, context. I like the most the context of Singapore, because they decided to show this sound outside, next to the entrance to the gallery. It was Center for Contemporary Art Singapore, and we never had opportunity to see it and hear it, but they sent us few records made by phone, and I heard from this record that the sound of glacier was mixed with the sound from environment around the gallery, and there was a park next to it, so sounds from birds, Singaporean birds and some monkeys was mixed with sound of this melting glacier. So I think this was very interesting connection and contrast. But we know it only from documentation. Also, this year was very big show in Zachęta. This is one of the most important art institutions in Poland. It's in Warsaw, and there was huge show dedicated to art of young generation of Polish artists, and there the sound was only like a, let's say, background for different works, but from the other hand, this whole exhibition was dedicated somehow to different kind of fears that our generation have. So the sound of melting, let's say, bring together these all works. But in my opinion, and this is the main idea, the best way to show it and to hear it is just to hear it in emptiness. Yeah.
So
you would like to add something?
Yeah, I was only in Bydgoszcz, which was the second, and also in Basel when we started it. This was the initial.
You can tell about melting party.
Yeah, this was in Kunsthalle in Basel, where it was shown the first time. Where I also did the first spatial mix for a real space, but this exhibition is the biggest version of it, and in my opinion also the best, because the full potential of the composition works here with a really strong sound system, with a 3D sound system which totally immerses you. It's always important. I mean, sound installations are always super dependent on the space, and this is a really good space for that.
Actually, I'm very, very glad that we could realize that this version, especially because of the dialogue between the Brandenburg exhibition and here upstairs, which is a complete contradiction of museum policies and how we deal with energy resources and how we have to proceed. And this is going to be my last question now. As you mentioned, anxiety, there is this flourishing feeling, especially for young people with climate depression and so on, and you are surely aware of these attacks that have recently been happening by the activists of the last generation in museums, attacking Rubens and Rubens and Van Goghs, and also recently here in the Museum Barberini in Potsdam there was a Manet attacked, and I was wondering, like, you were giving an interview to the Monopole magazine, stating that there is a new thinking needed now in terms of art and life. And this is an ongoing, very long discussion in art history. And also the last generation was saying, like, in their video, what is worth more for all, art or life? And I was wondering how your position as an artist and as a very sensitive person to climate issues is for the future of how you as an artist are going to intervene in museums and in your personal work.
So I always, many times I asked myself about, because I treat art as my tool to talk about important issues for me, especially environmental issues. And from the one hand, I really believe that art can be very helpful tool to talk about climate change, about the future, to ask about what we can do, how we can change things. And I think this is because I also very often collaborate with scientists. So of course scientists tell us that, okay, here is a climate catastrophe and this is fact. But from the other hand, if you use art, you have some wider possibilities. So you can tell something like speculative theories, you can make some your own future vision, and maybe this kind of strange, different ideas that came from the art can be useful somehow. I still believe in this, that this is good language to talk about possibilities for the future. Yeah. This is from the one hand, and I had something in my mind from the different. I forgot.
Maybe it comes again.
Yes.
When the audience is also now invited to ask questions, if you have any questions. Yes.
I have one question. It's more for Danny. It was very impressive, but I think it's very loud. And I was entering two glaciers twice. One was in Iceland and the other one in Switzerland, but it was not so noisy. What is the reason for you that you made it so loud?
Like I said, the intention was not to show a realistic glacier soundscape, but to show a composition made out of glacier recordings. And in the experience, especially on vernissages, it gets a little bit more louder in the space. And yeah, regarding this, we try to maybe push it today a little bit more, because people will talk and it will have a big effect on the acoustics. But in the future, when single people come into the space, it will be a little bit more quiet. So you can stay longer in there and really sink into the sound without getting tired of the loudness. So this is the intention. But like I said, it's not really intended to sound realistic, yeah, on the other hand.
I like that this is still somehow realistic. Maybe because we have a little bit different approach, so this is like a mix of our intentions. But I would like to mention that these records are coming from 3 different glaciers, Aletsch, Monterrey, and Rhone. So Rhone sounds like bloop, 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 and this is very subtle. And for me, this is the best moment of this sound installation, when you have only these drops around. But for example, my records from Glacier Aletsch was more like stronger sound, because there was one hole inside the glacier, and all water went through this one hole. So the sound was different. It was more like waterfall. So this is the reason that sometimes this installation is very quiet and very meditative, and sometimes it changed to more loud. But I agree that for vernissage can be louder, but normally it should be more subtle. Yeah, but this is the reason that is different. Yeah, and it's also like Denim said that this is collage of records, but this is also a little bit of Denim's reinterpretation and our interpretation. But I think it's still more like realistic thing. It's not fantasy about this sound. I think the base is really documentary. Yeah.
Are there any more questions? Or haben Sie noch Fragen? Wir können auch Fragen auf Deutsch stellen.
Any possibility to make an interaction with this installation for the visitors of the exhibition?
Interaction in what sense?
To write something, to give any texts.
Yes.
Or writings to what they have heard and what emotions they had.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea, and we will absolutely think about it, because we have the intention also for the Brandenburg exhibition, but also here to have the voices of the audience and the visitors visible and hearable in the exhibitions and also here. So this is a wonderful idea that we will surely follow on. Yeah. Yeah.
I have one comment. So first of all, congratulations to the really very, very impressive installation. Looking at your video, I had in mind right away an image in Brandenburg. Everybody knows, I guess, that huge parts of the spring, the landscape in Brandenburg, or parts of the Brandenburg landscape, are filled and covered by foil. Due to the asparagus harvest and grown, and the images reminded me very much on the foil-looking glaciers, and the reasons are very, very different why to do that. But I experienced also at the end of the asparagus season, when you go through this or ride through these landscapes, you are confronted with mountains of broken foil, actually. You see the enormous impact on the environment, also the negative impact, of course. And there's also a very strong sound moment then, when the foil is together and when the wind is there. So this is very interesting, and for me that is a different, but in a way also very similar level, where Brandenburg meets the global issue of environmental catastrophes. Yes.
Wow, I can imagine this sound, because it's sound made by wind.
Yes.
On this foil. Okay. Wow. Yeah, it's like one of example of sounds of Anthropocene.
Yeah.
No. Like,
Precisely right.
Yeah.
Gibt es noch Fragen? Haben Sie noch Fragen? Oder wir können auch gerne dann informell weiter Fragen stellen und die Themen, die hier aufkamen, besprechen. Sie sind herzlich eingeladen, jetzt ein Glas Sekt mit uns zu trinken und danach auch uns weiter in der Melting-Galerie aufzuhalten. Und wie Sie gehört haben, also der Besuch lohnt sich tatsächlich auch alleine und auch immer wieder. Und wir haben freien Eintritt. Sie können jederzeit vorbeikommen und sich auch vielleicht nur für eine kurze Zeit sich in die Melting-Galerie begeben, um zu erfahren und zu spüren, wie diese globalen Ereignisse uns hier in Brandenburg ganz physisch und ganz emotional erreichen. Herzlichen Dank nochmal.
Ja, ich wollte mich auch nochmal bedanken hier bei dem Haus und bei dir und auch bei dir, bei dem ganzen Team. Es war sehr gut organisiert und wir hatten hier sehr viel Spaß. Ich habe hier die ganze Woche verbracht mit den Vorbereitungen. Auch vielen Dank an Benjamin, der mir da heute die ganze Woche sehr geholfen hat. Und ja, ich freue mich, dass das jetzt endlich eröffnet wird und wir jetzt anstößen können.
Genau, und ich schließe mich an mit dem Dank ganz besonders an Florentine Schmidtmann. Sie haben sie gehört, aber sie war auch maßgeblich daran beteiligt, dass hier alles so gut lief.
Ja, genau.
Und Florentine
auf jeden
war
Fall, natürlich.
an vorderster Stelle. Auch Katja Welzer möchte ich ganz herzlich danken. Sie war sehr offen für diese doch sehr radikale Idee, dass wir damit die neue Programmatik des Hauses und der BKG anfangen und natürlich auch dem ganzen Team. Und jetzt, glaube ich, haben wir uns den
I also would like to say Dankeschön for everybody you mentioned. Yeah. I don't speak German, but yeah, danke.